Good morning, children. So, this weekend, I'm going to read out a story to you. Last time, if you remember, I sent you the Bayberry Tale, which I think you enjoyed, and I've sent the link also for you to read the story. And this time, I'm going to read a story called The Golden Touch to you. Now, you must be wondering, why does Sir read out stories to us? Why doesn't he instead, click a picture and send it to us? See, there are two reasons behind it, children. One is that I want you to enjoy listening to the story, and I want to bring back the old storytelling tradition, right? And secondly, why I read out from these classics is that I want you to have an idea of the other era, the era in which these stories were written. And they were beautiful stories with a lot of morals, with a lot of learnings and teachings, right? So that is something which is very, very, very important for us these days to understand. And children, let me tell you, to improve your vocabulary in life, you will have to read a lot. I know some of you are genuinely fond of books, right? And you love books, but some of you still have to develop that taste. And once you develop that taste, as they say, books are a man's best friend, you will never feel lonely. Remember that. Now, today's story comes from the continent of Europe, alright? And it comes from a very small country called Greece, alright? So, let's look at Greece on the map. So, we have Asia, we have Africa, and here we come to North America, and here we come to Europe. Alright. So our Europe. Where is Europe, my dear? So here is Europe. Alright. And this is Asia. Alright. And if you move to the west of Asia, you come to America over here. If you further move west, right, so you would find Europe over here. Alright, so when you look at Europe, so I'll bring it forward for you. Alright, I would request the cameraman to just keep focused. See, this is Greece and the capital is Athens, right? And this is where it is. And if you look at how far is it from India, you see India is here, here is India, and here is Greece, right? So it's all the way. So today we are going to read this ancient story from Greece, which is called The Golden Touch. So let me start reading the story for you. There was once a king called Midas, who loved gold more than anything else in the world. Each day he spent hour after hour in his treasure house, running his hands through his sacks of gold coins, admiring his golden jars and statues, and holding up his golden jewelry to the light to watch its gleam and shine. Midas thought that the precious metal had a much more delightful color than the emerald green of the grass or the sapphire blue of the sea. He thought it was far more beautiful than the gold of waving fields of wheat, the gold of his wife's hair, even the gold of sunshine. So he was so enamored by gold that he would just love the metal gold. The king once held God dances by taking care of one of his friends who were lost. Dionysus was very grateful and insisted, "Let me repay you for your kindness by granting you a wish. Now think hard, make it something good, whatever you like." Midas knew exactly what he wanted. "I wish for everything I touch to turn to gold," he declared. "Are you sure about that?" Dionysus asked. Are you quite sure? Dionysus asked again. What could be better? Cried Midas delightedly. Very well then, it's done. The god granted his wish. Midas couldn't wait to try out his new powers. He hurried over to a tree and snapped off a twig. Unbelievable! It immediately grew heavy and bright. It had turned to solid gold. Joyfully, Midas rushed around, touching everything in his royal garden. Soon the apples hung on the trees like golden baubles. The flowers hardened into gold sculptures. The fountain froze into a spray of golden glitter, and the grass solidified into a gold pavement. How wonderful! said delighted Midas, clapping his hands. Now for my palace, and he picked up his robes and ran inside. By the time Midas reached the cool of his great chamber, his clothes had stiffened into a fabric, woven from pure gold thread. Oof! Puffed Midas. That's a little heavy. The weight of his golden clothes was dragging him down, slowing him up, and making his shoulders ache. Still, thought Midas, that's a minor botheration compared to how beautiful my robes look. He set off through the halls and corridors, touching pillars, pictures, doors, furniture, floors, until everything glowed gold. Phew! It was hungry, thirsty work. Midas sank into one of his new golden chairs at his new golden dining table and called for his servants to bring him his lunch. He wriggled about a bit on his rock-hard seat, but couldn't get comfy. Never mind, said Midas to himself, as the servants brought in platter after platter of delicious food. I don't know any other king who is rich enough to eat off gold plates. And he touched each serving dish and bowl and saw them gleam. Amazing! Midas whooped, and licking his lips, he reached for a juicy chicken leg. Ow! He yelled, biting down on hard metal and breaking a tooth. He reached for a goblet of wine and took a gulp. Ah! Midas roared as the mouthful of gold got stuck in his throat. The king pushed his chair back, spitting out a hunk of treasure. Oh no, the king moaned. Suddenly he realized what god Dionysus had been trying to warn him about. I'm going to have a whole kingdom full of gold, but I'm not going to be able to eat or drink anything. At that very moment, Midas's gold doors swung open, and his little daughter came running towards him. Midas backed away in horror, but it was too late. Daddy! The little girl cried, flinging her arms happily around him. The next moment, the king's beloved daughter was no more than a lifeless statue. Midas howled with misery, and huge tears began to stream down his eyes. Excuse me. I would gladly give away every piece of gold that I own to my little girl to get my little girl back again. He thought, how foolish I have been. There must be some way to take back my wish. Desperately trying not to touch anything else, Midas hurried to Dionysus and begged him to undo his magic. Go and wash in the river Pactolus, the god instructed him. As soon as the king had done so, he was hugely relieved to find that his golden touch was gone. All the things Midas had turned into gold were back to normal, including his beautiful little daughter. After that, if the king had had his way, he would never have looked at another nugget of gold, as long as he lived. But god Dionysus turned the sandy bed of the river Pactolus gold forevermore, so that every time Midas walked along its banks, he would remember his greedy mistake. I hope you enjoyed this story, and you had some learning out of this. So when we do an exercise, I would put up a question to ask you what was the teaching or what was the lesson of the story. So have a great weekend. Thank you.